What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. And you know what's interesting about like the amount of money that all of these studios are spending on these, live action remakes or on these Marvel movies, comic book movies, whatever, you name it, okay? The funny thing about that is they can't even pull the plug on these joints, when things are off the reservation. They can't cancel this thing now, all right? Because it costs so much money. They've spent too much money. Now it's like we kind of have to release it in the theaters. There's nothing else we can do, right? This thing was already off to a bad start anyway, just from the fact that, number one, it was a live action remake and people are kind of tired of those, say, hey man, stop doing these live action cash grabs that you're doing from Disney's old content. Just leave that stuff alone. Let us enjoy the animated stuff. Go out there and make new things. But not only that, but this film obviously had all kinds of other issues going on with it. For starters, we saw the dwarves weren't going to be in it at all, thanks to Peter Dinklage, pulling the plug on the dwarves. We're going to have magical creatures and bandits and bullshit. It's like, all right, man, that's I don't even want to be a part of that. But then you got this big mouth actress coming out there screaming and hollering about, oh, I didn't like the original 1937 film. It's 85 years old and evidently so, and all that bullshit, right? Like everybody was like, you know what? Nah, I'm done. I'm out. But the problem is that Disney can't just Disney Plus this thing at this point. They gotta put it in theaters. It's like, shit, we spent a lot of money. How are we gonna recoup some of that? I guess we're gonna have to throw it in the theaters. But then the question becomes like, how much marketing do you even put in on this? How much do you spend on marketing when you already know that this thing is going to be a bomb? You can see it a mile away. This is going to be an absolute bomb. So how much do you throw into marketing to bring it out? And how much more post-production are you going to put? Like, how much effort are you still trying to put into this woke Snow White film to make it a success when you already know it's going to be a disaster? And every dollar you spend going forward is just a dollar lost, It's just kind of an interesting conundrum. Let's go ahead and check out this article because this is on Bounding into Comics. Initial costs for Rachel Zegler's Snow White film are already shockingly high. Yeah, not surprised at all. A new report details that the initial cost for the Walt Disney's live-action Snow White film starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot came in at $209.3 million. That is ridiculous. This new report from Carolyn Reeds at Forbes reveals that the Snow White production went under the codename Hidden Heart Productions Limited in the United Kingdom. According to Reed, in the UK filings for the company, the Walt Disney Company had already spent $209 million as of July 31st of 2022. So as of July of last year. So how much more money have they put into this film since then? So this isn't the total number right now. That's just what we know. We don't know everything. And then, of course, when they have to do their filings next year, that's when we'll figure out how much more money they spend on this joint. Man, this is going to be a nightmare for these cats. However, she notes that the United Kingdom's government has granted Disney a $41.1 million tax rebate, meaning the net spend so far is at $168.2 million. What's the deal with the UK funding all of these woke Disney projects? Like they just got through doing, what was it, Captain Marvel? Right? We talked about the Captain Marvel budget. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it above. They spent money over there too, like subsidizing crap. So now another $41.1 million in tax money. I guess that's coming from the UK residents. Yeah, thanks UK residents for funding woke bullshit. But yep, there we are. Okay. So now they're at $168.2 million overall. The key thing to point out here is that these are just the costs through July 31st, 2022, and do not include any production costs incurred after that date. Fort rightly notes its costs are likely to rise sharply. Yeah, I bet they are, as more than a year of post-production still had to be done after the date of the financial statements. Yeah, see, they're just going off of these dates because they're trying to wrap up, like kind of their fiscal year. Like, all right, here's what our production spend has been for this particular year, our little fiscal year over here at Disney. So that's why these statements are coming out. But we've been seeing, because all of these other analysis, I don't really analyze it that much. I just kind of dig into whatever the numbers are. But we've been seeing guys like Valliant Renegade, WDW Pro. They have been breaking it all the way down and saying, yo, these Marvel movies that are coming out, yeah, they give one budget, that's the budget up until that point. But then when the next year's numbers come out, like with Doctor Strange, with Thor, Love and Thunder, then you got to add a whole other $100 million on top of the production budget because they had to go back and do reshoots. All right. And none of this includes marketing. Obviously, marketing is the big spend that they're going to have to do to make people want to go and even watch this film. So yeah, it's just a financial disaster over there right now at Disney. It's not just post-production that will increase the cost, though. We know from earlier this year that they were doing pickup shots without Rachel Zegler. It's likely those production costs and any more they might have done in the past year will also be included. Yeah, and that was from this. You guys remember this, right? Okay? When Disney was coming out and saying, oh, those pictures that you saw leaked on the internet, that's not us. That's not us at all. And then they had to backtrack and, yeah, those set pics are actually real. Okay, that is actually us. Okay. Showing the 7 magical creatures or whatever these dudes is called, you know, bandits or whatever. And everybody is pissed. Yeah, no dwarves here. There ain't gonna be no dwarves. It's gonna be these cats, you know? Everybody was upset that Disney had to backtrack and basically, you know, come out and said, yeah, Snow White and the 7 diversity hires. That's what it became, yeah. So all of that stuff was filmed. That's all part of the budget as well. So then we got this. Reacting to this information, financial and box office analyst Valliant Renegade wrote on X, Rachel Zegler's Snow White looks like it will have a production cost of $300 million. And that's his post right there. Yeah, Valliant Renegade keeps on top of this stuff. And he's the one, him and WDW Pro, that kind of expose what real budgets look like. You know, a lot of us guys, we look at this stuff, we dig into it, we talk about it. But then he's actually bringing that stuff to light and saying, yeah, like this is really what they're spending on this. $300 million. And you have to figure, you know, if it's at 168 right now, and, you know, they have a whole year of production that we don't know about, and then there's going to be post-production again, we aren't going to know the costs. Yeah, this time next year, we're probably going to figure out, oh yeah, Valliant Renegade was right. It was sitting around $300 million. And then they say it's quite possible it could go even higher than $300 million given the production costs that were incurred over the past year, as well as any kind of post-production work the film will undergo. Nevertheless, Reed claims, based on these initial numbers, the film will need to gross $336.4 million to break even. However, her calculation does not factor in marketing costs. But yeah, let's just stick with this amount because this is more than likely going to be the case. We've seen that with Thor: Love and Thunder, with Black Panther, and what was the other one? Doctor Strange. We saw that those budgets ballooned after the fact. We saw that with The Flash. Yeah, remember this? The Flash's budget was bigger than we originally thought. Said the budget for the Ezra Miller starring DC Extended Universe film had been previously reported to be in the vicinity of $220 million. The Hollywood Reporter recently stated that the film actually cost Warner Brothers Discovery around $300 million. All of these joints are ending up in that $300 million price range. So when Valliant Renegade says that, yeah, 1,000% believe it. And that's the problem. If you're spending $300 million on a film, you have to release it in theaters. There's no chance in the world that they can like Batgirl this thing. Like, all right, we're just not going to bring it out at all. All right. They got to drop it in theaters because they got to try to recoup some of this $300 million. OK, but then, like I said, the question becomes, how much do you spend on marketing? You know, I don't think there's an amount of money that you can spend that will overcome the negative backlash that this Rachel Zegler chick has brought to this film. I don't think there's any amount of money that you can spend that will somehow overcome what she's done in terms of negative press. Like, I'm thinking, like, even if she were to walk back, like everything that she said, right? Like, even if every word, everything that she said at D23 last year, she just walks it all the way back, right? She just walks it all the way back. Oh, no. Let me clarify, because you know that they have to be strategizing about that right now. Because if I was a reporter and I'm interviewing her, hey, what did you mean at D23 about, you know, the prince is a stalker? Can you like go and elaborate on that? And they oh man, no comment. You know, they do not want her to say anything else negative about this film. But she's going to have to address that at some point in time. But even if you poured in all kinds of PR and marketing help for Rachel Zegler, like how much of that do you really want to spend? And then is it going to do any good anyway? You know? Like, even if she says, oh, yeah, you know, all of that stuff, I'm not looking for love. No, of course not. You know, I'm looking for love. I'm always looking for love. You know, no, the prince isn't the stalker. He's a wonderful gentleman. Yeah, you know, I don't mind being saved by a prince. And I mean, whatever they're going to say is not going to fit with the movie they made. So at this point, it's a wash. It's a done deal. Forget the fact that there's no dwarves in Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. All right. That's already a problem that they probably are going to have to address as well. And you know what was really screwed up about that? Like this article said, after facing controversy last year for their planned portrayal of the princess's 7 companions, Disney insisted that they were consulting with members of the dwarfism community to avoid reinforcing the stereotypes baked into the 1937 film. This is BS, okay? Who did you consult with other than Peter Dinklage? Nobody, all right? You consulted with people that probably was never going to be able to get the role, so we just went to the dwarfism community. Meanwhile, the actual actors in the dwarfism community were like, what the hell? You know, thanks, Peter, for pulling up the ladder behind you. You know, we had an opportunity at 7 roles. You know, like, think about that. That's 7 roles that are not available, like, all the time. And not just 7 roles, 7 iconic roles, all right? These cats would have been, like, immortalized in Disney lore forever, all right? I understand that a lot of people don't even want these live action remakes, but if you're gonna do them, at least you would have had like 7 dudes that would have been able to eat off of this forever. 7 people with dwarfism. They would have been able to say, hey man, guess what? I'm the new Dopey, you know? And maybe some little kid loves that Dopey and he would have been able to go to cons and conventions and stuff, you know, and played that character out, or, you know, at least signed autographs and gotten something for that for the rest of his life. Same with like all the other 7, Bashful and Doc, all of them other cats. They would have been remembered for the rest of their lives for that role. That might have actually launched their careers and did something for them. But nah. Peter Dinklage had to pull up the ladder behind him. Yeah, nah. You guys just got to figure out how to get regular roles like I did, you know? But you're Peter Dinklage. And you started off playing these types of roles yourself. And then soon as you make it and you start getting regular roles, oh, now, don't get these cats that stuff. This is absolutely ridiculous, man. I thought that was wrong. Because honestly, there's few roles for people with dwarfism. There's few roles. And this is one thing that they could have did. Let them eat. This is their opportunity. You know, it's crazy. But then you got other articles saying study proves that Disney is making a big mistake with their Snow White live action remake. And there's this particular paragraph I wanted to point out. It says Snow White's live action remake has a big hill to climb. Due to its popularity and creative genius, the original Snow White film doesn't only hold a special place in the heart of Disney fans. As mentioned, the feature set a high bar for what animation would become, laying the groundwork for many to build and grow the medium. Because of this, it's often viewed as the holy grail of animated films, garnering mass amounts of support from loyal animators and fans alike. This clearly puts the live action retelling of the classic at a disadvantage. And then continuing on, a study conducted 15 years ago will help explain why a live-action remake of Snow White will not only fail, but fail historically now that Rachel Zegler and Disney have added even more controversy around the film. According to Screen Rant, Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs arrived to change the world of animation, being the first full-length traditionally animated feature film and Disney's first animated movie. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has been deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the United States Library of Congress and is still regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. This isn't simply coach speak. The 15-year-old poll conducted by the American Film Institute clearly shows that Snow White and Seven Dwarfs is considered the greatest animated movie of all time. Yeah, that was conducted in 2008, but it's still true today. You know, I think that even if Rachel Zegler didn't come out and make those stupid comments, right? Like, even if she didn't do that, even if they cast her appropriately. Remember, she's a race swap. So even if they didn't race swap Snow White, even if they didn't have a controversial Snow White actress running her mouth saying all kind of dumbass shit, like even if they cast the dwarves correctly, even if let's just say they went out and just said, hey, we cast everything appropriately and we're just going out and doing a shot-for-shot remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs just with live action people, you know, I still think the backlash still would have been there, all right? And it's not just because people are tired of cash grab remakes, which we clearly are. We're tired of Disney just doing the cash grab remake bit, but because this film is held in such high regard across the board, right? So it's going to be bad no matter what. And man, look, when those trailers come out, holy shit. You better get ready for some world-class ratioing on those trailers, man. The marketing is going to absolutely be interesting. I'm just curious how much they're going to spend on it. Every dollar they spend is a dollar lost, all right? And it's supposed to drop, I think, in March of like next year, you know? So I don't think it's going to come out in March. They're probably going to end up pushing it back. But if they try to hold to that March date, we're going to see some sort of trailers coming out in the next couple of months because they got to get ramped up for it. Anyway, folks, what do y'all think about this situation? I think it's just hilarious that Disney got themselves in this pickle, you know, because they're woke, because they want to do sloppy cash grabs. They're not interested in creating new things. And now they just absolutely burnt up about $300 million and climbing, okay? Because that number is not going to be the final number. But you guys let me know what you think. Jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.